Don't miss the 5 easy steps to painting bone detail.
Spikey bits.
Welcome back, Hobby Maniacs. I'm Baer, and today we have another fantastic Tuesday tutorial for you on 5 easy steps to painting bone detail. Now, if you're like me back in the day, bone always got my juices going, and flesh always got my juices going, but I could never quite get the colors down right on my miniatures. Like, I wanted so badly to make my miniatures look good with these two very prevalent areas on models, and I can never get it right. And through the years, you know, we've come up with a bunch of techniques and things, and of course all the technical game that Games Workshop has out there has made it a lot easier to do. So today we haven't done a flesh tutorial yet, and that might be in the future now that I think about it. We've done how to paint dragon skin, which you can check out. That's great for the stuff, well, the dinosaurs, but also some of the stuff out of the Stormcast. Maybe some Dark Eldar things, maybe some Eldar things, but not too prevalent out there. But a straight on flesh tutorial would be a good thing to do that isn't big monster critters, you know, just like human forms, because I feel like a lot of people out there, well, there's a lot of human-esque minis to paint, and I don't see why we couldn't do that here in the near future. But for right now, what we're going to do is show you how to get some really good looking bone detail. Now, we're still on the Carnosaurus. This is our last Carnosaur tutorial here. And you can see that there is some airbrush detail on this throne right here. It's not going to be on the tutorial quite yet because we use the same colors we use in this tutorial to airbrush out these horns on the back of the howdah right here. But maybe more importantly is that we show you how to use those same exact colors quick and easy, just 5 steps. It's actually only 3 different colors and 1 wash, I believe, to get the coverage and get the really good looking results that you would want from not just your bone detail, but maybe you can use it for some other effects out there as well, perhaps purity seals, perhaps parchments and things like that. But you know, if you just want a different, more bleached look, but this definitely will make your bone detail look good. And if you're using it on skeletons, you can definitely go back and line all the individual edges of all the skeleton bones and things on there, and that would really make it pop with like the top color that we're going to show you in this tutorial. So enough talking by me, let's get over to the paint bench and show you how it's done. So the big 5 easy steps to painting skull detail is as follows. First, we're just gonna base coat the appropriate area with the very first coat of paint, which is gonna be MENOTH white. And we've left that bronzed skull right there exposed so we can see the progression of it come together as we're doing it. The first step is grabbing a nice big base coat brush. We're going to use our number 3 bomb wick here, which is probably like a number 2 of most other folks. There you can see the detail that we're going for, and we're just going to base coat the whole area. I've taken some of that paint, that MENOTH white base from P3, put it on my wet palette here, and we're just going to go in and with a bunch of solid broad strokes, we're just going to go in and base coat this whole area. Now, you see right here, this is where some painters get discouraged, is they see it not covering, and that's okay. This is a darker material or darker color underneath, so we're just going to keep going at it and working it in from our wet palette, nice and easy. It's going to take 2 coats because we're doing a very light color over a dark color, and that's going to require a little extra attention. But as long as you keep rinsing out your brush and working it up from a non-dried out paint, it will come through on a nice solid base coat, and that's what we're going to keep doing here. It should take about 15 minutes or so. Believe it or not, that was actually the hardest part of all of this, the hardest, most time-consuming part. So about 15 minutes later, we've got our nice solid base coat. Several coats of thinned down MENOTH white base all the way around it, and I went ahead and used a little Zamazi. What is this? This is ZANDR dust to do the twine that's holding the skulls on to the palanquin here. So we also did that, so it took a little bit longer. And now we're on to the wash. So grab yourself a synthetic brush with a little bit of poof to it, but not too much poof. And what that's going to do is that's going to allow you to soak up some of this wash. Now we're using the AGRAX EARTHSHADE gloss because that's got a built-in viscosity breaker, so it should, in theory, allow it to coat and get into all the crevices like we need. And you see there it doesn't soak up a ridiculous amount, and it should apply it nice and easy all the way across the skull itself, as well as the tassels and the twine. Now there's going to be a little bit to get off, a little bit of glick glops, and what that, and we'll grab a smaller brush to do that, is what I'm trying to say. So I'm just, wash is like one of those mysterious things that you have to be very careful that doesn't mess up on you. So I'm trying to concentrate as I'm doing this tutorial here. I just want to show you how a base coat goes. Now this is thinner stuff. This is the gloss version, so it is going to disperse, as you can see. So now that that's done, this is our first coat. We want to make sure it got everywhere. Now we're going to grab, I'm going to rinse this off, and I'm going to grab a smaller detail brush, and we're going to get some of those glick glops, so to speak, out of here. So we're going to dip this in our water, and then we're going to go in and pull some of these areas where it's a little too much of the wash, back here and such, and we're just going to dab it off. Now that's probably okay right there, so we'll leave that one. I kind of wish it had built up like that right here, but you can tell from the actual model itself there isn't that depth right there, but I'll try to put it in there with a little bit of this, but I don't think it's going to be there. I think we're going to have to manufacture that. It isn't quite going to look like the one below it, on at least on that side there. And then on the front, I want to make sure we get in all of the nose and teeth area here, and the twine on the back. So this might be the most risque of all the parts, but it's definitely not the most time consuming because this is all one clip right here. So now we're just going to let this dry, and we're going to come back and re-base coat it the same color, but just hitting the highlighted areas. Alright, now that our wash is dry, and kind of off camera there, you can see I went in and I put a little bit of detail work with the wash around the twine, and I was able to get that kind of jawline contrast in there with a little bit of brush work and a little bit of luck. Sometimes you just have to nug it out. So we're gonna go back to our base color, the MENOTH white base in the wet palette, and now we're just gonna go in and we're gonna hit all of the fine detail areas here that we covered up with the wash. So we're gonna hit the nose, around the eyes, this area right here in between. But we're gonna go a little wide with it because what's gonna happen is we're gonna come in with the MENOTH white highlight, and just as the name suggests, it is the highlight. So that will be our highlight over top of this. Now what I like about the gloss, the AGRAX EARTHSHADE gloss, is that it's thin enough to do 2 or a couple of coats in some cases, because technically that jawline is a couple of coats, to do a couple of coats of thin washes over top of things, and you'll still get that differential, and you'll still get that nice contrast like you see on the bottom skull there. So I'm going to go through and detail out all of these areas. We're going to come back and talk about it, and then we'll move on to the next step.
Alright, so here you can see that I have blocked in nice and wide all of the areas around the wash and around the crevices and around the cracks, all the nooks and crannies, things like that, with the MENOTH white base. Now the next step is to get in there with some of the MENOTH white highlight. Now I'm on my wet palette here. I mixed up a range between the two, a 50-50 mix, because I'm not sure, well I am sure, sometimes I like to go 50-50 mix just to see where we're at. So I'm going to go in with the 50-50 mix right here and make sure that that's good enough and we're not too stark of a contrast over top of things here. And it looks like it's probably okay to go in there with, if we want a nice bleached skull look, that this is probably okay instead of taking it all the way up to MENOTH white highlight. So we're just going to kind of get in here and get all the fine edges a little bit wide, because we may come in with some fine strokes of MENOTH white highlight at the end. But for now, I think this is good enough. But you will see that this will get overridden a lot by the next application of gloss wash. So while it looks like the skull below it, without being kind of, I guess it looks a little stark. It's not blended as much because we haven't gone in there with that gloss wash. The wash itself will override these colors. So this is just building up a natural transition that we're also going to have to use MENOTH white as a highlight stroke here in a minute. So we're still going a little wide, but not quite as wide as the MENOTH white base that you can see is in that area, but we still got enough for a fine stroke of MENOTH white highlight on the outside here. So that's my plan of attack for this one. So still on our fourth step here, which is our highlight color, which I guess is kind of two sub-steps, like I just showed you, the 50-50 mix of MENOTH white highlight and MENOTH white base, and now we're just going straight MENOTH white highlight, which we're going to use very liberally here because this is going to be very stark, and that's what we want it to be. So it shows up after our glaze, and then down here on the teeth, we definitely want to show the teeth off, right? So very carefully hitting each tooth. And now we're going to work our way around all of this, giving that nice, stark, fine line. And the last step in this process is another coat of the AGRAX EARTHSHADE gloss, which we are going to apply from our wet palette with a synthetic bristle brush here. So we're going to get in here and same thing as before, give it a nice broad stroke, and we'll get up here in those cracks as well to finish that detail off. On the front, same thing, top to bottom, like gravity, and pull in from the side right here as well to get that nice definition if it isn't already there. Okay, so now we can see the comparison between the two skulls right there, and I'm looking at it on the computer monitor, and I can already tell, yeah, the jaw wash is a little bit more stark, but when we hit this with some matte coat, it'll come back down and look okay there. But everything else is looking good on the skull. I'm happy with it. I'll probably apply one more thin wash to get it the same tone as the one on the bottom here. Rinse my brush out, very important. To get it the same tone as the one on the bottom here. Now if you wanted a nice crisp, kind of dried out, deserty bone, you could even thin down your AGRAX EARTHSHADE wash even more with a 50-50 mix of Future Floor Wax and water, or perhaps Lamium medium, any matte medium, whatever you want, it would work the same. This is a little bit more darker to kind of let the golds of the Lizardman Howdah kind of come through and not overpower those. So that's kind of where I'm at here. So I will give it one more thin glaze, so to speak, to match the skull on the bottom there, which is probably what I did originally, because I thought it was a little too stark, which it still is. Definitely on the top there, kind of starts to conflict with the bone. And then this project will be finished. So there it is, 5 easy steps to painting bone using only a few colors. The 2 privateer paints, MENOTH White Highlight and MENOTH White Base, right here. Then you're gonna give it a few washes, and you can get this this little wash holder widget from some various 3D printer sellers out there. But the AGRAX EARTHSHADE gloss, very important. It's the gloss, and again, you can always kind of cut that and make it a little bit more fluid with a 50-50 coat of Future Florax and water, or any matte medium out there. So that's pretty much it for this one. I hope you enjoyed this video tutorial on how to paint skulls, mostly easy. If you like these kind of features, make sure you subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so you can be the very first to like and comment on these types of videos here. And head on over to longwar.net. That's the home of the battle reports for exclusive content and VIP access. Become a veteran of the Long War today.